Fly fishing really forces you to pay attention. When you're paying such close attention to the water and the fish and the bugs and the trees and the birds, you start to build these connections. And I think a lot of times, a good story is really just a bunch of connections being made, right?
Kids beatings. Annie, you gotta.
Like, how do you know each other?
Well,
We met on the beach.
on the beach, top secret beach in Seattle.
I was not happy to see someone else on my beach.
Yeah. That first summer when we met, we were out there fishing. It was like August, and we were sitting on the beach talking, and then it came out that you were, at that time, editor of the FlyFish Journal. And I had, I think just like a week before, or like a few weeks before, submitted, the first time I ever submitted anything to the journal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, you're kidding me. I just sent you this piece. And
I
that
remember
was kind of
I remember going back and rereading it and thinking, God, I hope I don't hate this because he seems like a nice guy. Because then I didn't have to lie to you and
yeah. But yeah, so then it was a couple years after that we had worked together on a few stories for the FlyFish Journal, and I had started working at Emerald Water Anglers in Seattle, and I got the idea for doing this reading series called Writers on the Fly. I didn't know how, this crowd in a fly fishing shop, I didn't know how they were going to react to people reading fishing stories and fishing poems. That very first reading, you read a few different pieces, but you read Make the Sky Better. And that was the first time I had ever heard that story. But I remember you could hear a pin drop. Everybody was so absorbed by that story. That was the moment where I was like, oh, okay, like this works. Seeing how that has grown and developed and sort of blossomed over the years has been great. And that's, you've taken part in the vast majority of them. But are there any that are especially memorable for good or bad reasons?
I mean, there's all kinds of things that can go wrong up there. You can lose your place.
Thank God. Shit. That was almost really bad. Okay.
Your phone can go off. Someone's phone in the audience could go off.
Salt. Barbecue.
$100 on Sealy with an extra discount. Mattress Firm.
You could freeze. I mean, how many times have I been this close to crashing and burning? It's a kind of a high wire act.
Yeah. What is it about fly fishing that lends itself so well to art and to literature and to poetry?
I think, and I think there's tons of theories out there, but I think it's because when it comes down to it, when you get to the business part of fly fishing, we're doing it alone. It is a solitary sport. Mm-hmm. And because we're out there alone, we only have one place to really go, and that's up here.
When you break it down, there's no better way to catch a trout. No other technique even comes close. If they're a rising fish and your fly selection is on point, a fly is the best way to catch them. Not a spinning rod, not bait, not nothing. A fly will do the job better than anything. He ran his fingers through his long beard and clinked the ice cubes around the bottom of his bourbon. But when it comes to swinging flies for steelhead, it is the absolute least effective way to catch them. We spend thousands of dollars on the finest boutique gear, but we're entrenched in a paradigm that limits our success. We intentionally make a hard thing harder. Why? Purity, he said, but not purity in the monastic sense. Purity in a way that distills the connection with a wild fish to its very essence. When that connection is made, we taste what it means to be wild. That cannot be approached, cannot be apprehended, cannot be known by those who have not stepped in the river. It fills us with the unknowable. That's the obvious thing, he said, but not the only thing. On the river, the emptiness fills us. The aloneness fills us. The nothingness fills us up. And that's everything too. That cannot be faked. That cannot be known. He exhaled, put his glass down, and he pushed his hands closer to the fire. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. I really, really do.
You have a lot of pieces that you've written over the years and that are in this book that are touching and meaningful and dig a little bit deeper. You know, you're one of the better writers out there that I can think of at writing that kind of piece. Let's not forget that fly fishing is fly fishing. Sometimes we do it with buddies, and sometimes we like to mess with those buddies.
Yeah.
And you've written some great stories about that as well. Yeah.
I have a group of friends that I go out with every year, and there's maybe 8 or 10 of us. We've been doing it for 15 or 20 years now.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're camping in the same spot for like 10 days with these guys, shenanigans happen, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you also have traditions that happen that just sort of evolve organically over the years. And one of them that we've had forever is called capping.
I will palm your lighter. I will spark a Winston and then use it to open a bottle of beer from your cooler. I will take the bottle cap, and while you are running your mouth about some fatty you may or may not have roped, I will creep toward your waders. I know where they are. They're hanging from the roof racks on your rig. I will drop that bottle cap into those waders and give them a shake to ensure the cap falls to the lowest reaches of the booty, all the way down into the toes. I will stifle an evil chuckle and rub my hands together in delight. The deed has been done. Now we wait. In the morning, you'll be talking shit around the fire as you gear up. Have you forgotten the last time we fished together? Of course you have. You will pull on your waders, and after everything has been tucked in and strapped down, you will feel that bottle cap. I will be secreted away, watching for that look on your face. The one that flashes anger first, then submission. You will sputter. Which one of you jerks capped me again? I am prepared to make counter-accusations. I already have my waders on. I will deny everything. Thank you.
Everybody has that story. Not everybody can write it. And so we're fortunate to have the writers and artists that we do in fly fishing who can capture those moments for us. We can kind of live their stories, but then we can relive our own story. a frazzled constellation. Somehow you've made a connection between this aspect of fly fishing, stepping back, looking at life. Where do stories like that come from for you?
You know, I think for that particular piece, which is about basically the flies on my truck liner, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has those flies stuck in there. And for me, it was just looking at those flies one day and thinking that every single one of those flies is up there for a reason. Every one of those flies means something.
Here's to that parachute Adams I plucked from your cowboy hat on the banks of the Yakima. You called it the closer. It was lucky for me too. Jimmy gave me that beautiful, ugly cricket pattern. I miss Jimmy. We all do. I've never fished that pattern. Here's to ugly flies that are beautiful, but mostly, here's to Jimmy. Here's to the number 18 soft hackle that's now more a bare hook than an actual fly. Faded and lovely, it put the sneak on so many pigs that night on the Henry's Fork after the winds came up and all the tourists went to dinner. The yellow and brown conehead broke a 6-weight on Rock Creek. Luckily, I didn't really like the rod. On the way home that night, Montana Highway Patrol pulled me over on I-90 outside Missoula. The cop saw the swarm of caddisflies on the visor and let me off with a warning, even though I was driving on a suspended license and had 2 roaches in the ashtray. Here's the heavy flies that break shitty rods and blind cops who'd rather talk fishing than write tickets. Here's to the 3 orange stimmies, 3 intruders, 2 hoppers, 2 caddis, 2 pheasant tails, 2 prince nymphs, 1 black woolly bugger, 1 crazy Charlie, 1 stonefly nymph, 1 kung fu crab, and 1 sex dungeon that I have pulled, cut, or had someone yank out of various parts of my face, scalp, neck, arms, fingers, and hands. I hope it was funny for you. There is plenty of love for the 6 chewed-up Quigley cripples, scattered like a frazzled constellation across the roof liner. Even though Quigley is my favorite fly, I've failed to keep track of why each one of you resides in this hall of glory. But thanks for your service, unknown soldiers. And here's to this self-healing, smelly 1999 Ford Ranger with an eternally illuminated check engine light. It's slightly faded green and has pulled these heroes 2,432,000 miles with 3 sets of tires, a transmission overhaul, 3 brake jobs, over 31 of the lower 48, 3 provinces and parts of Baja, Sonora, and Chihuahua. Tolerant of cigarette smoke, resistant to beer, dog slobber, red-hot tears of regret, and home to approximately 5 dozen Hall of Fame flies, all